But tomorrow, this campaign goes national.
Makes it sound like Bernie Sanders already dropped out. Should she start focusing on the general election or get through Super Tuesday first? Here to weigh in from Real Clear Politics is Caitlin Huey-Burns, Republican strategist Boris Epstein, and Executive Director of the Accountability Project, Nomiki Konst. Nice to see all of you this morning.
Good morning.
That sounded like a general election speech there. Should she be worried about Super Tuesday first, Caitlin?
I think that she is well positioned heading into Super Tuesday. There are a lot of southern states that are voting. That's kind of her firewall, given the diversity demographics for Democrats there. And so I think she's well positioned. But I do think that Bernie Sanders will be able to rack up some delegates in places like, obviously his home state of Vermont, Massachusetts, maybe even Colorado. Is it enough, though, Boris? I mean, look at these exit polls among black voters last night. Just ran the table for Hillary Clinton. 86% to 14%. A remarkable turnout there in South Carolina. Does he stand a chance?
He does not. Sanders does not have a chance. It's a crushing win for her. 50 points. People did not predict that big of a win. Even if Bernie takes Vermont, Massachusetts, even if you want to give him Colorado, Oklahoma, Minnesota, with the 445 superdelegates that she's going to get, she's well on the way to the nomination. So she should be pivoting to the general. Now, the way she's doing it, I disagree with. She's gotten too personal too quickly. What she should be doing is concentrating on her message, but she doesn't do that because she's never had much of a message.
Well, and trustworthiness a big problem last night. Some of the exit polls that came out this morning among black voters, very well. They thought that she's trustworthy and they like her. But among white voters, she didn't fare as well. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I think that some of it has to do with the way that South Carolina is set up. You still have a Democratic machine in South Carolina, and that's in African-American communities, and her message plays very well to that machine. Endorsements matter in the African-American community. I don't think they matter as much in in the Latino community. It clearly doesn't matter as much anymore because that vote is split. It's not mattering as much to white voters, higher educated voters. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's pretty much that's the lockdown. But, I don't necessarily... I don't believe that the race is over here. We've played this game before. It happened in 2008. There were some states that had stark differences between Obama and Hillary Clinton. They still got very close in Nevada. They got very close in Iowa. It's about delegates.
Is that possible, though, that Sanders could pull the Obama card here and just go after the delegates, the ones that Hillary Clinton was sort of ignoring in 2008, and he was sort of plucking, and then suddenly she looked over her shoulder, said, wait, Senator Obama has more delegates. Right.
I think it's much more difficult this cycle to repeat. However, I mean, Bernie Sanders will end up with having really shaped this race dramatically. And so if you're thinking about how she pivots to the general election, she has to be able to balance some of the shifts that she made in the Democratic primary into that general election.
You talked about narrative. You talked about messaging. One of the things that Hillary Clinton's been talking about now is going after banks and Wall Street. Let's listen to this and see if it makes sense. Listen.
If you cheat your employees, exploit your customers, pollute our environment, or rip off the taxpayers, we will hold you accountable. It's important that Wall Street never threaten Main Street again. No bank could be too big to fail, and no executive too powerful to jail.
Boris, all the money that she's received from Wall Street, does that jive?
Was that different than her speech to Goldman Sachs, you think? Is it the same speech, same speechwriter? I think not. It's complete hypocrisy, and it's so transparent and really sad. Why would she be doing this? She's allowed, as you said, for Bernie Sanders to pull her so far to the left, and it's going to be very negative for her in the general election because she's gone there. And we're going to have a nominee in Donald Trump who'll pull from the center.
Okay, so let's real quick on Super Tuesday for the Republicans. Does anyone stand a chance against Donald Trump on Super Tuesday? No?
Absolutely not.
Silence.
I think perhaps Ted Cruz can win his home state of Texas, and I think that's,
maybe possibly.
And if he doesn't, he drops out. So if Cruz doesn't win Texas, he drops out.
So are we looking at a Trump coronation then in the middle of March 15th in Florida?
I don't know if it's a coronation. I mean, he's winning the states, and he's fighting very hard. I think the person that does best in this race right now, aside from Trump, is Chris Christie. He's the one who's going to come out doing best out of all of the candidates.
Maybe VP candidate.
Rubio may be second, and that'll set him up. If Rubio's second, it'll set him up really well to be the nominee in the future because, as we talked about earlier, he's got a history of that.
Rubio, Cruz, scrambling right now. Guys, nice to see you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, let's get it over to Juliet for a look at what else we've got.